Hello, everyone. Welcome to our feature spotlight training session focused on using Artwork Archive's income feature to track your revenue, expenses, and invoices for your art career. I'll let everyone file in. But while we wait for everyone to join, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat, your name, where you're from, type of art you make. I'd love to meet you all. I'll go ahead and cover a few housekeeping items. So this webinar will be recorded, have no fear. And we have saved a few minutes at the end to answer any questions you may have. So please submit any questions regarding, the income, invoices, and expenses features, and anything I show you today. Use the Q&A button at the bottom to submit those questions. And that's what I'll use to inform the Q&A session at the end. Sometimes Q&As can get lost in the chat. So the chat button is an incredible place, as you see, to share, talk amongst yourselves or ask questions that maybe you want from the general audience or introduce yourself, technical issues. Go to the chat for that. And then any specific Q&A questions for me for the end, submit using the Q&A button. That way they don't get lost in the chat. And then also, I'll try to get to everyone's questions, but if I don't get to yours, please know that you can always reach out to us directly via team@artworkarchive.com, or also you can reach me directly at Cassidy@artworkarchive.com. And I'll be sending the follow-up email as well to those that are here and those who registered. So you have access to us. You can also use the little chat. I think it's like green or blue, the little chat icon down in the bottom right corner of your Artwork Archive account. It's real people behind that chat. It's us, it's our team. You won't get a robot or a machine, you'll get us. So if you ever have questions that pop up after the webinar, as you're using the product, just reach out to us there. We are so more than happy to help. And I guess I haven't introduced myself. So my name is Cassidy. I am the product education lead here at Artwork Archive. I help train new and existing clients on how to use the platform. I provide educational videos, webinars like this on all of our amazing features. And I'm also an artist based in Los Angeles, with experience working in and exhibiting at contemporary art galleries for a number of years. I also was a user with Artwork Archive before I started working on the team. So it's been really fun to take all of that experience and knowledge and bring it into helping more artists like myself when I was using it as my go-to place for my own art practice. And in case you're not familiar or you're new to us, I wanted to give just a brief history of Artwork Archive. So we began in 2010 as one of the first cloud-based inventory systems after one of our founders' mother, who is an oil painter, actually lost years of really valuable information for her art career to a hard drive crash. So he couldn't find a solution custom tailored for artists like his mom's needs. So he sought out how to make one. And the rest is history. And now we serve artists, collectors, art organizations in over 130 countries. And we're accessible enough for early stage artists or collectors, and really powerful enough for complex organizations managing global collections. So it's our passion to build the most intuitive, powerful, and really reliable tool for art management. And we like to think of Artwork Archive as an extension of your studio. I like to say it's my virtual studio assistant. And the concern of longevity and security is often what drove much of our decision-making process when we are creating Artwork Archive. We are a cloud-based service, like I said. So we use the highest level of encryption, industry best practices, and enterprise-level security and hosting. And we also made a conscious decision to give our users the ability to download and export their information at any time in multiple formats, giving you full control of your data and the peace of mind that comes with knowing that you can have a local copy of whatever is in Artwork Archive at any time. And another reason I wanted to mention this is because we are almost constantly evolving the product. So we talk to our users on a daily basis, and we're finding new ways to improve the system all the time based on what our users actually need and what will benefit the majority of them. So another reason I wanted to mention it also is because that means that you have access to Artwork Archive in your inventory anytime on any device, meaning you can also create invoices and manage expenses from anywhere on any device as well. So whatever you can do on a desktop, it is adapted and you can do on a mobile device, and you don't need to download an app or update a downloadable system at all. And that's a really huge feature that we feel really proud of. Just want to give a quick reminder that this is a feature spotlight training session focused on Artwork Archive's income feature. So we'll dive into everything from how to send an invoice to how to track your expenses. However, I do want to make clear that we are not certified accountants or tax professionals, so I'm not able to answer any specific questions related to those topics. I am going to show you how to use Artwork Archive to help manage your income and expenses in a way that works for you. But for more detailed explanation and help around what you can write off, how much to pay in taxes, and those specific questions, you'll need to seek a professional accountant. We have a ton of resources on our blog, including a few articles written recently in response to our tax webinar with Hannah Cole from Sunlight Tax. So I'll link those in the webinar notes after this. And of course, if this also feels too advanced for you and you want a more general overview of the entire platform, I highly recommend that you attend one of our 101 Getting Started training sessions that happen twice a month, usually on Wednesdays. And the next one is next week, and you can sign up for that at artworkarchive.com/webinars. I'll also send a link in the chat, and maybe I can send that right now, actually, to everyone. That's where you can sign up for a 101 if you haven't attended one of those yet. It's a really great way to just kind of get an entire overview of the platform. We also have a pre-recorded version as well if you need that to watch at your own leisure, because we know that time zones can be difficult to attend lives. Okay, let's dive in. So whether you're a full-time artist or not, keeping track of your revenue and expenses is an important part of managing an art career. Here are a few ways that keeping track of your income and expenses can really benefit you as an artist. So you can gain really valuable insight into how much money you're making from selling your work, as well as from sources like teaching, monitoring growth, and have a record of past sales to inform future price increases throughout your career. You can track costs on materials and other items like shipping and framing to better inform prices. And you can know the amount of any taxes you might owe and what you can write off at the end of the year. You can also use this feature to stay up to date on unpaid invoices for sold work. And ultimately, what I'm hoping that you can feel is a better peace of mind to reduce the mental load of financial confusion. So now that you have the why of why we recommend tracking your income and expenses, let's show you the how. So when you log in, you will land on the pieces page. From here, you'll want to navigate to the income section located on the left side of your main dashboard with the money icon next to it. Underneath, you'll see items. When I click into it, you'll see items like revenue, expenses, sales and donations, and invoices. Now, the revenue and expense tracking feature is only available on the Artist, Master, and Professional plans. It is not available on the Artist Apprentice plan. So if your screen looks different, that might be why. We're going to start with the revenue and expenses section. We understand that the sale of your artwork isn't the only source of income for many artists. So there's grants, commissioned works, income from workshops, and a number of other resources. And like I mentioned earlier, we also know that expenses are every bit as important to track so that you have a clear picture of how your business is performing over time. With Artwork Archive, you can log general expenses as well as individual expenses for a specific artwork. And this tool can give you insight into the financial aspect of your entire business. So at the top, you have our familiar sort up here, search bar, just like you have on the pieces page, and the filter bar, which shows up on a lot of the pages in Artwork Archive. You can adjust what you see below using all of these different options. And right under that, you have totals, including revenue total, expense total, the combined total of those, and the total tax collected on your revenue. And we do not automatically calculate tax, as that is different depending on where you are, where you're based. So we really recommend searching for your local sales tax percentage. And we have a really great article actually related to that I can share in the show notes. So I'm just going to show you too. You can filter by date. So you can, I want to see all my revenue and expenses starting just last month. Or something that I really love is you can click yearly date filter, search by the last year. And from here, you can even create a PDF income report. So if I search by the year, I can create an income report that will then show me my expenses and revenue for that entire year. So I'm going to generate one just to give you an example of what that will look like. This is really handy if you want to send this to an accountant, or if you want to create this income report and then import it into another system like QuickBooks or Excel. So once I click it, it will then take me to the reports page like I showed you, and I can immediately view it. And you can see that I have my totals and I have my revenue broken down by category, as well as my expenses broken down by category too. And all my records underneath with the dates included. So like I said, this is really handy to print out and then cross-check with your bank account to make sure you have everything accounted for. Also, breaking these examples down by categories is really helpful when thinking about what you can and can't write off for taxes. And like I showed you, so when it shows up in your report section, so any report generated, this is just if you aren't familiar with reports in Artwork Archive, any report generated that's a PDF, you can immediately see it in the reports and docs section over here. And then from there, you can view, download, copy the URL, or share it. So you can download the PDF, copy the URL to send a digital version. So that's what it looks like, or that's a invoice, but you can copy the URL and send it in an email, or you can share directly from your Artwork Archive account with a contact in the system. You can send it to a contact group, or you can send it to an email that is not a contact in Artwork Archive. And you can send yourself a copy of that email and include a message letting the recipient know what they're receiving. So let's go back to the income section where we created that income report. So like I showed earlier, when you do this yearly report, you can also export this to Excel, which is incredibly handy if you are using Excel already, or like I mentioned, an accounting system where you can upload a CSV or an Excel document. This is where you can do that here. And not many people know that, so I love highlighting that feature. So let's take a look at the sort of expenses you can log. As you can see, we have, I'm going to clear my filter so I can see all of them. We have quite a bit of categories. So when I go to expense category, here are the ones that are already pre-made in Artwork Archive. So framing, installation, marketing, materials, membership dues. And of course, if one does not fit, then you can click no category as well. Sometimes it's helpful to look through these options to see what you might not be logging, like artist membership dues or your studio rent each month. And it's really important to log everything so that you can get a really clear picture of what your business and individual artworks cost. And now when we look at revenue as well, there's quite a variety of options. And we want you to get a sense for what you can be keeping track of as art-related revenue. So maybe you taught a workshop for a group last weekend and they Venmo'd you. This is where you can log that info so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle or, get put on a bunch of different apps or banking accounts. I don't know about you all, but in the past, before I used Artwork Archive, I would get to the end of a really busy year and then look at the Excel sheet where I was trying to keep track of things and realize I had only logged up to maybe, April of that year. And the question of what did I spend and where did I spend it from and the money I made, it was just kind of chaotic and it would pop in my mind. And then I would spend so many days going back through all the various platforms. And eventually I'd leave things out or expense-wise because I just would get tired. So I also would get confused. And also I, didn't know as much as I do now or have a good system like I do now. So I'm just trying to help you avoid having to have that same experience year after year. Another thing I wanted to quickly point out is that you can filter by payer or payee as well. So if you go to one specific framer or an art supply store all the time, and you want to see just how much you've spent in the last month or year there, or how much you've earned from a place, you can do that as well. You can filter by amount as well here. So if you want to see only payments that were under $500 or payments that were, over $1,000, you can do that here as well. And of course, you can filter by seeing only your expenses, only your revenue, and only your revenue made from non-art sales. So if you have another source of income like teaching, or maybe you're renting out your studio, or maybe you're doing one-off workshops in that way, you can filter that with revenue of non-art sales here, just to see how much that total is at the end of the year. To log a new sale, revenue or expense, all you need to do is click New Item here, and then you can register a sale, other revenue like I mentioned earlier, and then also an expense. So sales in Artwork Archive are always associated with the sale of a specific artwork or piece record. And when we click Sale, it will prompt you to choose which artwork you sold. When I click New Item and then I click Other Revenue, you'll see there are also a lot of options where you can log as little or as much information as you want, with only the short description and amount being the required fields. So this is what, if you say I taught a painting workshop this past weekend for Oil Painters of America. So I would title this, painting workshop, and then I would add my amount, and I would add a category like teaching, and maybe a memo that they paid me via Venmo, and then I'll save it, and it will save back in the main revenue and expense page here. And adding a new expense is a similar process, except you have the option to associate the expense with a particular piece. So if this is framing, I would add, framing in the description. I would do an amount. And then, I would add that it was framing, the date, and then choose my framer. So New Age Framing. And if I didn't have a contact already in the system, so maybe this is a framer I haven't used before, I can also create the new contact to associate this expense with that new framer or, workshop provider or client. And then I can associate this with a piece. So that's what's amazing is I can save it and I'll show you what that looks like. So knowing how much expenses like framing cost for a specific piece is actually really important when you're selling work and wanting to actually make a profit, because if you charge a certain amount but don't consider the cost of materials or framing, shipping, etc., then you might accidentally be undercharging or be covering a cost that actually can be covered by the purchaser, like shipping or framing. So another way to use this tracker as well is for commissions, public art proposals, grant applications. You can track how much a piece with supplies and labor are going to cost in order to properly apply for the right amount and provide the selection committee with accurate and professional information. And let me show you this in context for a second with a piece of how it will look like with associated expenses. So when you scroll down, this is a piece with a lot of information in the system. You can see, our typical location history, expedition history, all of this. Here is where if you log an expense associated with a piece, that it will be stored right in context with the piece. And what's great is you can see also the total production cost, so that when this piece sells, you're able to get a total as well of the production cost, the revenue, and see what your profit is from that piece. It's really important to figure out what works for you so that you can make a living doing what you love. I know that it seems tedious at first, and this is a lot of information in one piece record, but it's kind of incredible to see all the associations you can have with one piece and tell the full story of this individual artwork. Over time, it'll become a habit. And if you're not able to do something like log your expenses or revenue, every day, then we also really recommend taking one day of the week or month to sit down and log everything up until that point. So you aren't stuck with having to backtrack and then log them all at once in the end, etc. And so this is easier said than done, I know. And sometimes, we do lose track of time or lose track of receipts, but I can attest to the peace of mind that really comes when you have all of this information logged in one place. I'm going to go back to revenue and expenses. So I'm going to click income. And then we're already on the revenue expenses page. So let's scroll down and look at some of the different items here. We have expenses marked in red lettering, and you can see which one is associated with a piece and which one is not associated with the piece. So this is a general expense, but I still was able to associate it with the payee. There is a contact record created for payee and payers, and you can click into that and edit it. So under actions, next to every expense, you can view, edit, copy, or delete. So say the studio rental happens every single month. I can copy this and then update the date to keep all the same details together. I just really wanted to show you guys what it looked like to connect all of these pieces together. All of the letters in blue are hyperlinked. So let me show you another way that works. I'm going to go to this payer. So if I click on the payer, I will be taken to their contact record. And what's amazing is with contacts, I'm not going to dive too deep into contacts because this is, related to income, invoices, and expenses. And we'll have another feature spotlight where we dive completely into the contact feature. And we also have a lot of articles and resources on this feature in particular, but just to show you how it relates to connecting your expenses and revenue, this is what it looks like in the contact record. So when you've created a contact, you can then keep track of every single purchase, invoice that you've sent. You can also keep track of all the expenses or revenue from that particular person. So this is so handy when you're wanting to remember, just, did I pay them? Did they pay me? And also, what pieces have they bought? Let me reference that invoice so I can click on the invoice. This is the location they're associated with. Maybe they bought the piece from this gallery, etc. And you can associate them with groups. You can keep track of their email. That's just something I want to show you. And also, you can create an invoice directly from this contact record as well. So maybe you need to invoice this contact in particular for shipping a painting. And so I could click invoice and it will take me to creating an invoice for this particular person. So let's hop over now to the next page under income, which is sales and donations. So this page is specifically for sales and or donations and gifts of your artwork pieces in Artwork Archive. So just like on the revenue and expense page, you can filter at the top to see only sales from a particular location, client, specific types of art. You can even see the total cost of donated pieces from the year if you donated artwork to a charity or to be auctioned off. You can also filter by total amount of work. So when you see how many pieces you sold, over 500. And again, you can filter by year to date, just like in the revenue page to get an overview of the entire year. This is also the page where you can edit a sale. So something that's really important to know is if you accidentally marked an artwork as sold, or you updated the status as sold and you didn't mean to do that, or you registered a sale and you need to update the information on that sale, this is where you can do that. So if you accidentally marked it, you could come over here, click sales under income, and then what you would do is go next to the actions, and you can either view it, edit. If you haven't invoiced, you can view that invoice right here, and you can delete the sale. And something to note as well is when you delete the sale, you're not deleting the artwork in the system, you're just deleting the sale. And you will also get notified with this. Are you sure you want to delete the sale? It cannot be undone. So don't worry, if you click delete sale on accident as well, you will have this secondary I can't say that word right now, but you are able to make sure that you don't delete it if that was an accident as well. Anytime you register an artwork as sold anywhere, whether you've created an invoice or contact record associated with a piece or not, like I said, it'll always show up here. So sometimes people lose track of their pieces or want to know what happened when they clicked sold. This is where you can always go back and just cross-reference yourself. Similar to the revenue and expenses report, but dedicated just to showing the sales of your artwork, you can create a sales and donation report. So this is also where you can gain really valuable insight into which outlets or locations are performing best for you. And like I said earlier, the goal here is really to just give you a more comprehensive financial overview so that you can really understand your business and make informed choices going forward. And this is where you can also export to Excel and export to CSV. Let's go to the invoices. The invoice feature on Artwork Archive allows you to add artworks to an invoice and seamlessly send them to your clients to get paid faster. So you can set a schedule for payment installments, add custom notes and headers, and send off branded invoices in seconds, really. And with Artwork Archive, you can also get paid directly using the online web invoice option. Artwork Archive does not take any commission from your sales. So just want to be clear on that. But just like any credit card processing machine, if you choose to use and connect your PayPal account, which is our payment processing platform that we are integrated with, they will have their own processing fees. So I just wanted to point that out, that we don't take any commission from your sales, but we do allow you to have the option to get paid online. So your client doesn't have to send a check, or if they want to just, get paid, you want to get paid more quickly, they can do that online. And your client does not have to have a PayPal account. So it's just the payment processor that we chose to go with when we built the feature. And another thing to note is, while Artwork Archive does have the ability to record sales, expenses, other revenue, invoice, accept digital payments, etc., we're really mainly focused on providing artists the tools that you guys need to get organized, to manage your career, to grow your business, and showcase your work. So if you have more complex accounting needs, or have used a platform dedicated to accounting like QuickBooks, it can be really hard to break away. A lot of our team actually use QuickBooks too for our own accounting when it gets really complicated. So we don't have any immediate plans on allowing importing from or for third-party accounting systems, but our team is discussing a possible integration with QuickBooks later this year and possible integrations in the future. So that's just something that we're actively talking about, but I wanted to say that because I know that, there's a lot that goes into accounting and keeping up with different expenses. And one more thing, we don't have any shopping cart or one-click checkout options. So the process in Artwork Archive is, if you haven't, attended a webinar before, you're not familiar with the platform, people are able to see your artwork and its availability and then click purchase, and then they'll send you a purchase request that you will see in your inbox. And from these purchase requests, you will send an invoice. So it's not like, they see a piece, click purchase, and then fill out the credit card information and pay immediately. We have seen that so many of our artists like to work one-on-one with their clients and need to work out details like shipping and, a lot of other things that go into buying original artwork. So this is the Artwork Archive process. And that's why you would create invoices rather than, the kind of one-click e-commerce checkout. So the Invoices tab, like I said, is where you can see all of the invoices generated in the system at once. You can filter by client, status. You can even see all of the processed payments that have gone through our Artwork Archive and all of your purchase requests. And like I showed you, you can also see purchase requests in your inbox, but this is really handy to see every single purchase request at once. You can check the status of all your invoices from this main page below. So you can check the payment status. This one is pending. And that's something I wanted to highlight because it's often an overlooked feature that is extremely helpful when keeping up with those payments from clients. And as you can see, all your invoices populate sequentially here. So you can create invoices from various places throughout the platform, like your purchase request, registering a sale, contact record, etc. But I'm just showing you how to do it from this invoice page specifically. And no matter where you create them from, they'll all populate here. So you can create them, say you're creating it from a contact record, it'll end up coming to your invoices page. So let's create a new invoice to show you what that looks like. And a few things to know about invoices is you have to associate it with a contact in your system. So be sure to add that contact before creating a new invoice if they don't already exist. So you can just go over to your contacts, create new contact, and fill in as little or as much information as you want. You actually only have to type in the first name or the company name. So it's not a huge step, but you do have to have a contact to associate this invoice with. And also, there must be, if you're doing an invoice for an artwork, there must be a registered sale associated with any artwork that you're adding to the invoice. So I'm going to take this next step, use this contact. So this is what it looks like. And what I was mentioning earlier, you can't add an artwork that has a status of, available or in progress. It needs to be registered as sold. It's okay if you haven't done that yet, because if it's not sold, you can also, click create new sale. So I'm going to select a piece, average, functionality. If it's not sold yet, you can also just click this, create new sale, and add to invoice. And you can add all the details for that sale. So say, I'm taking tax, if there's a percentage, if it's sold from a particular location, just like you would register a sale. When you scroll down, you'll see all the relevant information needed for the invoice. So invoice dates. And another thing to know that's awesome in Artwork Archive is that when you enter a due date, it will automatically be populated onto your schedule. And the schedule feature is a really convenient way to keep up with your most pressing deadlines and dates. So you can add reminders from your contacts, from the exhibitions, from a lot of different places in Artwork Archive, and they will populate. I'll just show you real fast. Actually, I'm going to stay on this invoice, but I'll show you the schedule in a future in a second. So the invoice number up here is randomly generated, but you can update it to whatever works best for you and your records. And another recent upgrade for this page is actually the ability to add invoice notes. So say you have copyright or payment information that you'd like to appear the same on every single invoice. You can now add those notes to set as your default on all of your invoices going forward. So to add those, you'll need to go to your account page, which is found over here to the left, or you can click on the account page hyperlink here and it will take you there. And it's just a text box where you enter what you want to appear in the invoice. This was a really great time-saving tool and ensures consistency for your invoices. And it was a frequently requested feature by users. So we're really excited to share that with you all. Scrolling down for more invoice items, you can add an artwork or also invoice for other items like framing, painting lessons, studio rental, etc. You can add, here's the line item where you add that other revenue. Decide whether you want to include commission in the invoice total. You can also decide if you want to include shipping cost. And then further down is where you can update that invoice status. So if someone has already paid you for a piece and you're just using this invoice as a receipt, you can do that as well by marking it as paid here. You can also allow partial payments here, which can be really helpful if you need to accept a deposit for a piece, or maybe you have set up a payment plan for a client. Here's where you can include those payment buttons. And again, these are on the professional and master plans. So you can still create invoices on the apprentice plan, but in order to allow partial payment paid or include these payment buttons, you will need to be on the professional and master plan. So you can allow partial payments, pending, shipping costs. Okay, so this is how you can share an invoice. So up here, you can send it, and you have three options. You can send the web invoice, you can copy the web invoice URL, or you can generate an invoice PDF. So to send the web invoice, this is straight from your Artwork Archive account. And you can send it to a group. You can also send it to an email if it's not a contact in your system outside of who you've already created the invoice for. You can also send yourself a copy. Here's where you can also go back and edit the invoice. And then you can also always preview your invoice. So this is what the web invoice will look like. And this is what the recipient will see. So if they want to pay in full, they can do so. If they want to make a partial payment, they can do so. And if they want to pay in full, they'll click continue. And then down here, this is what it will look like. So they can either, choose using their Pay to use with their PayPal account, or they can pay via a debit or credit card, and any debit or credit card. So it's always great if you want to double check what that'll look like to click preview on your invoice. And of course, you can always go back and edit it at any time to update line items, to update notes, etc. So I also really want to show you actually the PDF. So let's go in here. I want to generate an invoice PDF to print or share. And why I really want to show you this is because it allows for further customization. So like the other reports you can generate in our work archive, you have the option to include your logo, profile image, and header, as well as 2 different font options, serif and sans serif. So I'm going to customize to give you an example of this. So I can do inches and centimeters, profile image, include my header, and I want serif. So let's generate that invoice. And then when you generate it, because we're making a PDF, it'll show up in your reports, because all reports that we generate are PDFs, and the PDF invoice will show up in the PDF reports page. So from there, I can view it. And this is what that new invoice that I just created will look like. We have seen artists also, so this is that header, but we've also seen artists use, let me see if I have another example. Oh, here we go. So if you have a header that's a different size, this also looks nice where you can have it take up the entire top of your invoice to look really custom. And how you add that header is you'll go into My Profile, and that's where your report header will be. So you can upload that here. And the recommended size is 1600 pixels by 300 pixels. The online invoicing with our work archive is really efficient. It's simple, it's cost effective, and you can cut down on data entry. You can get paid directly. And best of all, we don't take any commission from sales on the platform. So what you are charging will go to you, because we really believe in artists making money. And keep in mind that potential buyers can always contact you directly through different places like your public profile, private rooms, or the website embed feature that you can do with your public profile to send you a purchase request where you can then send the invoice. And I have a lot of resources on those particular features in our work archive that I can share as well in the follow-up email. So that was a lot of information, but my hope is that you feel more comfortable using the income feature in your artwork archive account and just in your art practice in general, because finances and keeping track of what money is coming in, where it's going, is really vital to managing a healthy art business. It may feel overwhelming at first, but the good news is that once you have a system in place and create healthy habits like keeping track of your expenses or whatever works for you, it really does get easier and more manageable. And don't forget, you guys don't have to do it alone. So if something feels confusing and you need an accountant or a lawyer, you can also reach out to your local arts and business council and see if they can point you in the right direction. And again, we have so many resources on our blog around these topics. So I suggest that you go there and, look up something that might be of interest to you. Artists have been around for a long time, and I like to remind myself that if other people are figuring out, so can I, and so can you. So take pride in what you're doing and creating, because it's really important work. And we are here to help in whatever way we can to give you the tools to keep doing what you're doing and to thrive. So with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox. Also, real fast, let me show you. So here's how you access the help docs. They're down in the corner here in the Learning Center. And, I click help docs. If there's ever, how to create an expense, this is where you can look at step-by-step instructions on so many of the features. So if there's anything here that you want to go back and see visuals for, this is where you can do that. And if there's something that you don't see, reach out to us. Also, video tutorials here. So getting started, getting the most out of it, overview of reports, public profile, private rooms. This is where you can access those video tutorials down here. And then also under resources, here's our blog. And like I mentioned, there are so many great blogs that have been written. So specifically, here's sales tax for artists. We have, is it deductible? Your art business expenses addressed. Everything artists need to know about filing quarterly or annual taxes, common questions, etc. We have so many resources that I hope that you all are. I'll share this in the chat so that you can have access to this immediately. Okay, I'm going to look at the Q&A with the minutes that we have left. Have you finally added the feature of measuring in centimeters? Oh, yes, you can change your measurement settings at any point from the account settings. So here's where you can change your currency, size units, etc. Data. How long is financial data kept accessible? So everything in our work archive is accessible to you at all times. We do not delete anything. We do not, hold anything captive. You can always export everything in your account to Excel. That's something that we are really passionate about. We have templates for pitch letters to art galleries. We don't have templates for pitch letters, but we do have blog posts around that topic. So I suggest going to the blog and typing in pitching to art galleries. What level is the expenses feature available? I don't seem to have that category on my account. So let me go to pricing. And show you all. So here, income and expense tracking is available on the professional and the master plan. And so is payment processing. You can still do sales tracking and online invoicing in the apprentice plan, but to do that payment processing, get paid online, and to track income and expenses, that is actually on the professional and master plan. Can you upload receipts from emails or others as you can in QuickBooks? No, actually. So QuickBooks is incredible, and it has, a bunch more features related specifically to uploading receipts. You can add additional documents to particular pieces. So if you wanted to keep track of those receipts for the expenses, you actually can. You can add it in additional files. And that's another way of doing that. Will you allow to use credit cards for payment instead of PayPal? Yes. So again, you don't have to have a PayPal account. The client does not have to have a PayPal account in order to pay via credit or debit card. But you do have to have a PayPal account in order to have those payments be processed and go to you. We've got about 2 minutes left, so I'm rushing through these questions to see. You answered my question. Thank you. Okay, great. Hopefully I answered some of these questions as they were coming in. How do you begin creating invoice numbers? I'm only getting started in my art business. So far, I haven't been doing numbers, only writing on a pad to the buyer. So invoice numbers are they're just a way to track the invoice for you. So whatever works for you, you can have a random number, you can have it associated with a date. It's really just so you can have an external way of locating and cross-referencing those invoices. Can I create recurring expenses and not have to copy each month? Yes. So like I showed, you can copy expenses. You can't actually create recurring. I misspoke just there. You can't create recurring for it to happen, but that is something that our team is discussing. This has been very helpful, a bit overwhelming. I understand it can be a bit overwhelming. So with the last minute, I do just want to say thank you all so much for attending this webinar. It can be a bit overwhelming, but my hope is that you can rewatch the recording, you can go back, you can explore more. And then of course, if you have any other questions, you can always reach out to me, to my team. So we have resources available on our blog. We have a newsletter we send out. You can also start a free trial if you're not on a free trial to get to know the system. And that's something that is no strings attached whatsoever. You input, is there a way to import Quicken data into Artwork? Quicken is like QuickBooks, yeah. So there's no way to import data from Quicken and from QuickBooks, but you can export to Excel. These are all incredible questions. I will send a follow-up email. Yes, you can create certificates of authenticity, and I will send a link to all the previous feature spotlights. So we did one on reports. We went in depth on that. We did one on the public profile recently where we went really in depth on the public profile. So I suggest going to our webinar page. I'll send the link in the follow-up email where you can watch those, because sometimes in a general getting started, or even, logging into your Artwork Archive account, it can be really overwhelming until you get really in depth and understand a feature. So this is our hope with these feature spotlights. Thank you so much for attending. This was an incredible experience getting to see all of you show up and speak to each other in the chat. You're incredible. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out again in the little chat icon at the bottom of the screen, team@artworkarchive.com or Cassidy@artworkarchive.com. Thank you so much. I hope you guys get to have a great rest of your week, and also peace of mind managing your finances after this. Have a great day, everyone.